What's going on, guys? I am Toxic Jordan. Welcome back to the channel. So today we've got some very exciting news. It has been officially announced that the Namek INT LR Goku here and then the AGL Full Power Frieza are going to be getting their EZAs here. So we have got the kits to go ahead and break down. I am very excited for these units. I am pretty sure a lot of people are. It's been quite a long time since we've had a sizable Namek Saga buff, so this I'm really banking on these guys being like gods. So we'll definitely see. I already, just knowing the skeletons of their kits from what they did before, have a couple of worries. But we will get there and talk about those things. So yeah, let's go ahead and break it down. We'll start here with Goku. So the very first thing we'll take a look at is the new leader skill. Okay, so as expected, it looks like the leader skill went up to 180% for both categories here. So legendary existence, Super Saiyans, 180%. That's going to be a usable leader skill for sure. If this card isn't total butt cheeks, then yeah, he's going to be definitely a usable like Super Saiyans leader. So that'll be neat to have the legendary existence portion tacked on there. See what kind of units we're going to be able to add to our Super Saiyans team. The first one that comes to mind is like Tech Super EZA Beerus, right? Could be cool. Okay. So we'll take that off. Before we jump into the passive, really quick, I just want to glance at the super attack effects to make sure. So the 12 key, we are still stacking defense, so we get the great raises going. And then for the 18 key, oh, we are perma-stacking both attack and defense on the 18 key. Okay, nice, neat. Because obviously pre-EZA it used to be where he was just stacking one or the other, right? So now it's both or then just defense, so that's pretty good. Okay, and then jumping into the passive here, so we've got 200% stats and 20% damage reduction in base. Okay, that's good. Okay, some extra key at the start of each turn, launching an additional super attack for 4 turns after receiving an attack. Okay, that's good. The way this used to work was if you put him in slot 1 and he took 1 hit, then he would get the additional super for the turn. So you'd have to put him in slot 1 for that, but obviously that was detrimental because he wasn't really a slot 1 unit, like his defense isn't built that way. So this is better because now he can take the hit on like turn 1, and then when he comes back on rotation he still has the additional, so that's pretty good. Okay, he's getting some more key and stats, just a very small buff, but it's there for every attack received. Okay, and then he gets some additional, oh, that's good. Okay, so he's got some additional damage reduction and then attack as the first attacker in the turn. So now if you're putting him in slot 1, he's got 50% damage reduction there, so that's really good. As the second attacker in the turn, or third attacker, he gets a guaranteed additional and attack 100%. Okay, and then for 6 turns, he guards. When there's an extreme class enemy, he gets more attack and high chance of crit. Okay, and then when there is a Frieza enemy, he gets a guaranteed crit. Alright, so that's the same as it was before, right? Obviously. I don't know. To me, there's not really enough here. I mean, okay, here's the thing, right? He's got the 200% defense. He is doing the greatly raising, right? And then he's got all the additionals. So the thing is, his defense is going to be pretty high. Let's assume like turn 1 for him is not going to be the most amazing, right? Just because you haven't yet received an attack. Unless you get lucky enough to be able to put him safely in slot 1 on turn 1 of the fight, and then proc this additional here. I'm assuming that that's most of the time not going to happen, and that at least for the very first turn, he'll be a slot 2 unit, and need to build up a little bit of defense, at least for that 1 round, right? So I guess it's safe to assume that you could get like 2, maybe 3 attacks, because you're going to have the guaranteed additional from being in slot 2 or 3 here, and then you could potentially get the hidden potential system additional as well. So with all of those build-ups, and then the 50% damage reduction and the guard, on his second appearance, he probably will look pretty good in slot 1, because he's got the triple threat, right? He's going to have, I assume, pretty good defense at that point. He's going to have 50% damage reduction and guard, right? So he's got all 3 of the major defensive mechanics that you kind of need. Obviously, aside from dodge, because that is just its own thing. that doesn't really need to pair with other things in order to be good. It's good on its own. You just dodge and you don't die, right? But all of this other stuff stacked up just means that if he has to tank a slot 1 super, he's probably going to have what it takes to not die during that, right? Okay, so one of the things that I was worried about with this character is, you know, as per, like, typically the way that these things work is that they keep the spirit of the kit alive, and they have done that here. One of the biggest problems with this Goku before the EZA is the fact that he is a stacker, right? He's an infinite stacker, so at the beginning of the fight, he just doesn't look nearly as good as he is expected to once you get to the pinnacle moments on, like, turn 7, turn 9, that type of thing, right? And I think that this Goku is going to be experiencing some of the same. Now, like, you know, obviously, this unit is still going to be pretty busted when he first releases. I don't think that this is like a flop of a kit or anything. This is going to be a very usable unit. He's going to be doing a lot of damage. I know I haven't really mentioned that much yet, but that's because obviously defense is the first and foremost important thing in a kit, right? If a unit can't defend itself, it doesn't really matter how much damage they're doing, if they're just going to be a fish and, you know, get you caught. But there is a lot of, like, multiplicative buffs in here, so he is going to be hitting quite hard. He definitely will be, like, probably a usable unit, but I imagine that this unit is going to age out much quicker than some of the other, you know, like, super EZAs that have released and things like that. Simply for the fact that the guard does wear off after 6 turns, and I guess the assumption, right, is that by turn 6, you're supposed to have his defense built up high enough that you don't need to depend on the guard anymore, and you could just be relying purely on the defense. This is just meant to help you while his defense is lower, but I think that actually really takes away from the whole triple threat nature, right, because it means now he's going to have guard and damage reduction, or high defense and damage reduction, but it's only going to be like 1 or 2 turns out of the fight where he has both, right? So I don't know. I'm not super stoked about that. But again, we'll have to wait to see him in game just to see what all his numbers are looking like in the end. But I'm pretty weary that this is not going to be like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be like the best EZA we're going to see or anything like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at Frieza. Alright, so starting out with the leader skill, we've got 180% to Planet Namek Saga and Sworn Enemies. Immediately, I think that this is probably going to be the best Planet Namek Saga leader that we can use in-game. We do have a couple of other ones, right, at this point, but I think this is going to be the best. Why do they keep giving us Extreme AGL Planet Namek Saga? That is quite interesting. Ooh, maybe an Ultimate Clash Team idea. Could be fun. Okay, so the super attack effects here on the 12 key, we're greatly raising attack, defense for 1 turn, and then on the 18 key, we are permanently raising both. So same deal as Goku, it's just flipped, right, where we're permanently raising attack instead of defense, which is the way that they have always been set up. Well, I guess it was a little bit different that, like, you're perma raising the defense on the 12 key, and then it used to just be the perma raise attack on 18 key, but now it's, or it was the other way around, right? Perma raising attack on 12 key, perma raising defense on 18 key, and now it's just both here and just the attack. Which I suppose is better. But that does limit Frieza in a way that Goku isn't limited, because obviously with all those additionals that are in Goku's kit, he's going to be able to keep raising his defense, whereas Frieza is only going to be raising attack here. So that's one thing to factor in, that we're not going to be able to just, you know, pile a bunch of monster defense the same way that Goku will. So we'll keep that in mind as we glance through the kit here. Alright, so we have the same base stats, 200%, 20% damage reduction, some additional ki at the start of every turn. After receiving an attack, we get 50% stats, and we launch an additional super for 4 turn. Okay, great. So he's got the same ability here, because, again, he used to work the same way, where after receiving an attack on that turn, he would get an additional super, but now it's for 4 turns, so that's good. And he's also getting some additional stats. Now, after receiving an attack, this is going to be a multiplicative buff right here. So that 50% is actually going to do a lot more than 50, which is good. And then for every attack received, he's building damage reduction until he's up to another 3 hits. Is going to put him at 40% damage reduction. That's a bad ability. That is a really, really bad ability. This reminds me of, like, INT Evolution Blue Vegeta. This is the kind of thing that's good for the first month. when the kit releases and all the stats are, you know, caught up to the current level of where we're at. And then the moment that a little bit of power creep happens, or there's, you know, a new hardest event or whatever, and then all of a sudden taking hits to gain your damage reduction is not good enough anymore, right? I don't like it when characters have this ability. Usually that means when the rest of the kit starts to age out, this just becomes completely useless, because if you're taking too much damage on like the first couple hits before this is built up, then it just becomes moot, right? If you basically have to get yourself killed in order to protect yourself in the first place, then obviously what's the point of that ability? Okay, so I will say, jumping down here, this is nice. Having the additional 30% damage reduction as first attacker means he's already got 50% in slot 1. So now that's going to make this look more interesting, right? Because it's going to take a lot longer for 50% damage reduction on top of whatever stats he's going to have to age out of the meta rather than just stats themselves. So this is going to be looking a little better than like Evolution Blue Vegeta historically was out the gates, but I think it still does suffer the same problem eventually, right? Okay, then as the second or third attacker, we're going to be getting another multiplicative buff of 50% attack. And then a great chance of launching an additional super. Okay, interesting. I don't like this wording here. Usually it's better to have the great chance of launching launching an additional attack with a great chance to be a super is usually better, because that means you're getting the guaranteed attack launched, which means you have one extra thing per turn that can proc your hidden potential system additional. Whereas this one, you know, if the great chance doesn't proc, then you just don't do an attack at all, versus you're going to do a normal instead of an additional super, right? Because additional normals will still have a chance to proc your hidden potential system. So yeah, that could be worded better, but that's still good. Another multiplicative buff on him. Okay, then for 1 turn, he's guarding all attacks. Okay, interesting. And then for seven turns, he just gets, for 6 turns, he's got all these stats. For 7 turns, he's got these stats. And then when there's a superclass enemy, he has 100% attack as well. And then is there more to the passive? Did they include another screenshot here? Let's see. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So when there is a superclass enemy, he's got another 100% attack and a high chance to crit. And then when there's a Goku, he does a guaranteed crit. Okay, that's a lot of attack. That's a lot of stats here. This Frieza is going to be hitting stupid hard. What are we going to be seeing here? There's so many multiplicative buffs in the kit. Like, I can't... Well, I guess these two aren't. For 6 turns and for 7 turns. Those just go here as the base stats, right? Like, or up at the top there, where the base stats were. I don't know. It's a little bit harder to tell with this guy, right? Because he's not getting all of the same defense buildup. He does still have a decent amount of damage reduction. It's just hard. These two kits are really, really tough to see how exactly good they're going to be without actually using them in game first. Just because you're stacking two things that like meld together with, well, I guess it's 3, right? They both have defense, damage reduction, and guard in their kit. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's really not much that I'm going to be able to say about these characters until we actually see them in game. But yeah, there's just so much attack in this kit. This is crazy. But yeah, we'll see. It is nice that they both have the straight up 50% damage reduction no matter what if they are the first attacker in the turn. I imagine that's going to bode well for them on some of this new difficult challenge content. If there's any like locking stages or things like that, character sealing stages, they might still have a fighting chance in there with all this damage reduction and stuff. Could be very good. So yeah, keep in mind that these two units are very, very widespread usable units. Goku specifically and Frieza specifically are very, very popular amongst superclass and extreme class teams. So obviously there's like a ton of amazing categories that are getting really big buffs for these. These are the kind of units where it's very exciting for them to get their EZAs because there's going to be a lot of places to use them. I know I was, when I did my detail video for the Super EZAs for STR Gogeta and the INT Janemba, that was kind of my main complaint, was that they're a little bit limited on teams, right? Janemba does happen to be on a couple of the, biggest, like, extreme class teams right now, being, like, Movie Bosses and Uncontrollable Power. But, like, and then, obviously Gogeta is, like, on some, like, he's on the new anniversary team, so like you can't really complain too much there. But other than that, like, there isn't like a ton of places to use these guys. These two, that is a completely different story. Super Saiyan Goku, I'm pretty sure that is one of the named units that's on basically the most categories in the game. And then Frieza units are one of the most common villains that does span across most of the like good villain categories, right? So yeah, overall, I am pretty excited to see how these guys look. Let me know which of the two that you guys are more excited for, and stay tuned to see these guys in game. That is going to do it for this one. Don't forget to check out the links in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.